Hey, what's up, everybody? It is Scott with Friday Night AV. It is not Friday night, but it is Monday night. But I just had a little opening in my schedule, and like how I usually do this, if I can find an opening, I can address some topics that get asked to me, or my guest, or Kat, or whatever frequently. So I've getting asked really since I started this channel about mistakes that I've made in my home theater. So we will address that tonight. And what I'm calling the 14 and a half episode, because I'm only going to be hanging out here probably for about 20 or 30 minutes. So hello to everybody. Thanks for checking it out. Thanks for coming. Appreciate you guys being here. Have a little bit have some good conversation here and kind of share my thoughts on a couple of things. But it's January 22nd, episode 14 and a half, like I said. Appreciate all my subscribers, patrons. You guys definitely make this worthwhile. Love hanging out with you guys. I've been thinking about it all day, coming on here and chatting with you guys. So this Friday night, for a regular scheduled program at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time, I do have special guest Stephen Dew. His room will be on display for M-Wave. For the people signing up for that, he'll also be at M-Wave. But we're going to be talking about SVS and Klipsch. Stephen Dew actually sells both of them. He also owns every brand new Klipsch subwoofer in his home. He's got multiple setups in his home, and we're going to talk about differences. Because a huge question I get on this channel, actually a lot of questions I get is about SVS and Klipsch, and I do have some limited experience with both that I've owned. I won't talk about things that I do not own, but he has a lot of experience with both brands over the years. So this Friday night, Stephen Dew is going to be on with us. We're going to be talking M-Wave. We're going to be talking SVS and Klipsch, and I think we're going to have a really good time. So this Friday night, 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. Looking forward to hanging out with you guys. So tonight, why I'm on here, like I said, is home theater mistakes. Maybe we share some of the mistakes. You've made the same ones that I have, or maybe you guys have different ones. So if you've got some home theater mistakes, why don't you shoot them down in the chat? Or, if you're just hanging out, say hello so I know who's in here hanging out with us. So probably I gotta say is I made a lot of mistakes, which sucks obviously, but I was thinking actually since yesterday, and I was thinking about it today. I was like, I don't want to come on here for 2 hours and just explain every single bad life decision I've made. So let's try to keep it to like 9. So I'll keep it to my top 9. I think the very first one, and I actually just noticed this the other day, I was trying to move a couple of things around in the theater, is I did not do, oh, you know what? Shit, I forgot to say, I'm recording to Spotify too. So if you guys want to check this episode out on Spotify, we are now, all our new episodes are getting shared to Spotify as well. We're getting some followers and stuff over on Spotify, which is cool. So obviously the Spotify people listening, if you want to check out the video version of this on YouTube, Living It with Scott and Kat podcast. And for the YouTube people that always can't check it out, you can go check it out on Spotify. When I do get some time, I will be uploading some old episodes onto Spotify because we have like 20 episodes. So like I said, I do this in my free time, so I'm always behind on shit. So Edward, what's up, brother, man? Thanks for joining in. Henry, hey, Scott, Kat, hope all's going well. Hey, Henry, I appreciate that, brother. Kat will be here with me Friday night working the other computer. Tonight is just me by myself. But yeah, she'll be hanging out Friday night. Then her and I have an episode coming up as well, too. So always got something going on in the mix, man, trying to do what we can. We are completely booked for Base Brings Us Together, which is absolutely awesome. I've had people asking about live streaming and stuff like that. I know we're doing something special for our Patreon members. I don't know exactly what else that we're going to be doing. We still have some time to decide on that. I did have to close the open invitations because last Thursday we did reach our cap of 60 people. So Easy HT Tech, what is up, brother? Man, me and you need to collab and do something, man. I met you at M-Wave, and I've watched some of your stuff, man. You got some good stuff going on. So we need to chat, man. Maybe we can get on here one night and have some good time with these folks. So like I said, I'm not going to tear up everybody's Monday night with a 2-hour podcast, but I just want to go over a few things that some issues, some kind of stupidity maybe on my part, which is, it is what it is. I did build my room myself and designed it. That comes with pluses and minuses. If you hire an actual professional that does this for a living, yeah, of course you pay once, you cry once. You do it yourself. It's cool to say, hey, I built this room myself, but then you also have the pains and struggles of when you got to fix shit that you messed up. So, I just noticed this the other night. I've actually noticed it since I built the room, but it was a pain in the ass the other night. Is I did not put enough good lighting in my room. When you make everything very dark and like put velvet around your screen and paint the walls dark and have darker color carpet and all your speakers are dark and everything's dark, a couple of lights don't light up everything very good. So I wish that when I did the room, I put in a lot more lighting, because I'm definitely thinking in hindsight now that having way too much light that is obviously easily controllable is better than having minimal lighting that you got to turn up on max, but you're still looking for a flashlight. You're still looking for like a spotlight. So if you're in that design phase, make sure that you have enough lighting in your room, especially like up by the screen, back by equipment racks, back by the seats. I definitely regret not doing enough lighting. It's been a huge pain in my ass, and I need to redo my whole ceiling anyway, to redo for when I'm going to redo the new Atmos setup, which I don't know if it'll be this year or next year. And when I redo it, I actually made a couple changes. I'm going to be going from drywall. I'm going to do plywood ceiling now, because we broke and busted off a lot of drywall in the room. So now it'll be all plywood ceiling, but I'm going to put a lot more lighting in the room. So I'll end up with new Atmos and new lighting. But once again, if I did that from the very beginning, we wouldn't be having this problem now. So now I get to move all the stuff out of my room, which is going to be a huge hassle, and then go through that. So Easy HT texted, yes, sir, let's do that. Well, I will certainly be reaching out to you in the next couple of days, and maybe we can set something up, man, in a couple of weeks. I think me and you would have a good time on here. That's no doubt. Another thing I had a problem with is I did not run enough electric in my room. I started with just a big open area basement. I pretty much cut it directly in half for a theater, half for a kid's room. I did not run enough electric into the theater. And I don't know, my head was in my ass, but I pretty much just ran for whatever I had at that time, which when we moved into this house years ago was I think I had like 5 SVS subs and a couple of amps and a preamp, and I pretty much just ran just exactly what I needed. In my head, I must have not been thinking like, hey, maybe you're going to do something different, or maybe you're going to go more or need outlets in other places. I really just put in what I needed exactly where I needed it. And in hindsight, I would have ran multiple HDMI wires. I would have ran multiple speaker wires. I would have just ran as I was building the room out to have all that stuff, because to do it all later has been a huge pain in the ass. I've had to cut walls and run in, when I started making the big change over to the JTR subs and then moving over to the 220 volt, running all that 220 volt into my room, 8 dedicated lines of power. If I would have just overdid that whole situation from the very beginning, I would have saved a lot of frustration for one, a lot of time, and a lot of money. So definitely when you're planning out your electric, whatever you think you need for electric, I would suggest just double it, because you never know what kind of power amps or what kind of subs or what kind of new equipment. Or I literally did the bare bones of what I just needed at that time. And obviously most people's systems over the years evolve, and even if they don't evolve, but maybe you just rearrange your room or you move stuff and you don't have outlets in areas. So that was certainly a mistake of mine that I've had to pay for over the years. So live and learn with that, I suppose. Another problem that I had is I built my room, painted it, put everything together, and I did my acoustics after the fact. It would have been so much easier, because after I had the whole room together, then I ended up insulating the whole back wall, putting that together, and then doing the panels. And now that I've got to redo the ceiling, then I'll do ceiling panels. It's so much easier to work in your room when it's not all full of your gear like your seats, like in my room. And, a lot of people have small rooms. I mean, for you guys that have the huge rooms, I certainly envy you, no doubt. But like in my space, a 14 by 16 space, where you're trying to fit 4 seats and multiple speakers, and then try to figure out your acoustics, cat's going to kill me. Acoustics. I keep saying acoustics like I'm selling pool cues over here. Acoustics. I'll tell you one day I'll get my shit together. So I wish I would have took that into account when I was doing the room. I don't know if it was rushing to just try to get the room done or poor planning on my part, but as I sit there and I'm like, man, I've really just made a lot more work for myself. So definitely take that into consideration. So properly put a plan together and then get that into motion. And then when you're nearing the end, then move all your gear in, because working around all your stuff is a huge pain in the ass. Another thing that I regret, especially not obviously not so much as of lately, but I've been in the hobby my whole life. But once I got like 18, 19, 20 years old, and I started getting some money, and then instead of just getting hand-me-downs or garage sale finds or stuff like that, and I started being able to go to a store and like buy a new piece of gear, I found myself caught up in like monster power cables and wires and that. And this isn't going to be an episode where we're debating on if cables make a difference or not. Everybody has their own feelings about that, and I've been involved in some blind A and B tests, so I have my own feelings on that too. But I certainly got roped into the propaganda of a lot of that, and I really regret it, because back when I was building my first system, my first like legit system that I was super proud of for home theater, I really thought like Monster M cables and Component Video Monster certified and all that shit, like just like, oh, that's really, and when you blow like $2,000 or $3,000 on cables, and then somebody swaps that cable on you, like an HDMI cable that you blew $300 on with literally a $9 Walmart cable, and they switch it on you at an event, and the whole event goes on and nobody even knows that. It made me feel very, very silly about that. And then me and my friends, we went through a whole period of testing, and then as of lately, other people have been doing testing. M-Wave, they did some testing with expensive wires and stuff, and people were picking coat hangers over like $5,000 speaker cables that were doing it blind. So all the marketing was there. Whoever ran that marketing department, big thumbs up to you guys, because you guys, certainly took me and a lot of other people for a ride. And I can appreciate a very well-built cable. I think that it can be done at a much more modest price. I can even appreciate pretty cables, because like in the two channel setup upstairs with RTJs and that, if I wanted to just get a really nice looking cable, just because it's kind of more on display and you can see the connections and stuff like that, I could see not blowing hundreds of dollars, but spending a few bucks more just because it looked nice. I think some people call it like, speaker jewelry or audio jewelry. I could certainly, I can appreciate that. But for as a performance wise, unless I had $1 million system and it just didn't mean nothing, I couldn't see spending, $5,000-$10,000. And, a quick story, I had a buddy of mine that had a brand new Macintosh 400 watt per channel amplifier. And, those amplifiers are very, very expensive. And he got convinced into buying like a $600 or $800 power cable to go with it. Now, in my mind, I think Macintosh is a very well-known brand. That's, they're proud of what they make. So it was confusing to me that something would double its performance, why Macintosh just wouldn't include that in the box, and then them just charge more or whatever for it. But when we did some A and B comparison with just changing between the stock power cable and an $800 power cable, pretty much nobody guessed that right at all. So that's for a whole nother episode, and I don't even get into the whole back and forth arguing about it. That was a mistake that I really made. For me, spending a whole bunch of money on cables certainly wasn't the best route that I should have went. So as you tell, I'm still kind of jaded about it. I still have some of those cables in a bin, and I refuse to throw them away. And Kat gives me a ton of shit about it, but I don't care because I spent a lot of money on it, and I probably never use it again. So if I set up a nice garage system one day, I'll use the expensive monster cables. Oh, this next one's a doozy. And I got to give a big shout out to Stephen Smith from Home Theater Gurus, because Stephen Smith helped me out a ton with this next one, is not learning. Now, I mean, you can have people like remote tune, or back then you could have people come to your house to tune. But me not learning to tune subwoofers, and people might think I'm full of shit now because I just keep buying subwoofers. But back then, I was like, well, if I'm not happy with the bass, then I'll just buy a bigger, or I'll buy a better, or I'll buy more, or whatever. When the case is actually that if you take 2 or 3 good subwoofers and you tune them, most people are very happy. Actually, I had a friend of mine that had a couple of very nice subs, and he's like, I'm going to buy another one. I was like, you need to tune your subs. He's like, no, the guy wants like $300 or $400. For that, I can buy that costs a third of another sub. I was like, just do it. And then he actually found out that 3 subs could not be as loud as 2 subs. And as I knew too from events that we hold at the house, and I can show people that just adding a bunch of subwoofers together can actually make a worse experience, that things need to be tuned together. And, I should have learned, I knew about it, and I don't know if I was being lazy or intimidating. Learning new stuff is intimidating, no doubt. So I didn't know, it had to be just some intimidation or some laziness on my part. But for some reason, I was stalling a lot on learning. My problem was I didn't want to just pay somebody to do it, because I like to move stuff around a lot or swap gear out a lot, or I get on these things where, within a couple of years, I owned a lot of different, within like 5 years, I owned like 20 different subwoofers. So if I just had a room done and I wasn't going to worry about touching it for 5 years, then paying somebody to do it would have been, a huge relief. But I wanted to learn to do it myself. And it was a huge, huge learning curve, a huge pain in the ass. Even though I was in the hobby, like literally my whole life, learning to do something like that was very intimidating. But once I learned it and did it a few times with my own setup, and even helping a couple of buddies out, and then, it seems fairly simple. But I was very, the life-changing within the hobby, not life-changing in your daily life, but within the hobby, learning to do that and the benefits from doing that are astronomical. So huge shout out to Stephen Smith. If you have any interest at all of learning that, or even just learning how it can help your system, check out his channel. Stephen Smith is a much better teacher. People come to me all the time like, hey man, can you give me a hand with tuning my subs and that? I say, go check out Stephen's channel. He's got great editing, great production, great values. That you can get that kind of information for free is absolutely invaluable. When I met Stephen years ago, I didn't have none of the videos. Me and the guy were talking at like 2 a.m., texting each other back and forth, and I was having a lot of problems incorporating a lot of subwoofers in my small room, and he helped me out with a lot of issues, but I certainly regret not learning how to do that. So now that I know, it's nice, because no matter what subwoofer I buy or what system I'm doing in my house or anything I move around, then I can play with tuning them and calibrating and tuning to what I am in the mood for, or I have multiple presets in my mini DSP for extra bass, low bass, nighttime modes. I mean, it really just gives you good customization of your own system. So I should have learned that sooner. Kick myself in the ass for waiting so long and being lazy and intimidated. So speaking of that, another issue that I personally did, I don't do this one anymore either, is I would always trust automatic room calibration. Set up the little mic, whether it was Onkyo, Integra, Yamaha, Marantz, Denon, all the receivers, and I went through the years. You just set it and forget it, and like, hey, that it is what it is. I certainly don't do that anymore. I haven't done that in a while, actually, probably like 8-9 years. Yeah, 7, 8, 9 years. There's a huge gap. I learned this years ago. Me and a buddy We literally ran Odyssey with the mic in the same spot, like I want to say it was 3 times or 4 different times, and we recorded what it came up with. We didn't change nothing in the room. And literally every time we ran it, all the values came back different within like a dB or two. And then you learn to find out that, they're allowed like so many dB tolerance, even in the microphones, and then just the inaccuracy. So for anybody that is running that, they certainly need to check your dB readings after, because you could have one channel that is 2 or 3 dB too hot and another channel that's 2 or 3 dB too soft. And it is 6 dBs, and it is a huge amount of difference, night and day difference. So certainly do yourself a favor, run the automatic calibration if you're not comfortable with calibrating your whole system yourself. But after that, certainly check your SPL. I mean, you can get cheap meters for like 20 or 30 bucks on Amazon. Even if you just use a meter off your phone, even though they're not very accurate, it'll still let you know. Even if the inaccuracy says, 75 dB, at least you'll know that each speaker is playing at the same level. But certainly double checking your automatic room calibration. For years, I was like, well, that's what it is. That's what the computer says, and it knows better than me. But all those receivers that you buy where they build 10,000 of them at a time, there could be, they're allowed a big range of inaccuracy. So certainly do yourself a favor with that. 2 more left. And this one, I was kind of ashamed to admit too, which is fine. Shit happens. Is when Atmos first came out, I was not very impressed with it. And that was due to my own fault. When it first came out, I had the whole THX Ultra 2 line of clips, 7-channel, and then with 4 other THX Ultra subwoofers. And so then I said, well, I'm going to do Atmos. I bought 2 of the up-frying modules, and this isn't throwing any shade to people that use them. It does add to the experience. I'm not going to say that it doesn't. But I did the 2 up-frying clips modules. I was like, it adds something. I'm not sure really what it adds. So I bought 2 more and added them in the back. So I was using 4 of them. I was like, man, I spent a lot of extra money for this, and certainly not very impressed. And I used it like that for a very long time. Maybe like the first 2 years Atmos was out. And I kept seeing people like in AVS forums and stuff being like, oh, Atmos is a game changer. And I was like, these people like deaf or something, or their hearing aids are messed up. I don't understand. And then I would just try cranking them up, and then you could tell that the little up frying clips module, I think they were like 400 or 500 bucks, so they weren't cheap modules. Then they sound like they're straining to keep up. Then I experienced a couple buddies' houses with in-ceiling modules in the correct locations, pointed down, and I was like, man, my Atmos does not sound anything like this at all. So I changed over, sold all those up-firing modules, went to the in-ceiling modules, and then Atmos was a game changer that everybody was talking about. That was certainly laziness, I believe, on my part, is I didn't want to cut the ceiling out, redo a whole bunch of stuff. If it was supposedly the same thing, I think a lot of reflection off the ceiling can get strayed, by other stuff going on in the room, or other absorption points, or other deflection points, or, maybe if your ceiling is in a flat surface. But I'm not going to say that they're a complete waste of money, because I did notice some effects going on with them, but it wasn't lifelike. Like when the ships and stuff, or bird flies right by, I wasn't getting that exact feeling like, whoa, it really just sounded like a bird flew over my head. I was just like, oh yeah, I hear a bird, like off in the distance. It might have crashed into a window or something. I don't know where the hell it went. So I just didn't like the accuracy of it. Once again, this whole episode is about mistakes that I've made. That was a mistake that I made, trying to not cut holes in the ceiling, run wires through the ceiling. I tried to cheap out, tried to be lazy about it. And unfortunately, that was the experience that I got. I got a cheap, lazy experience, in my opinion. Some people love the up-fire modules, and to each their own. if you're enjoying it, that's what the hobby's all about. I'm certainly not telling you how to enjoy the hobby. These are my personal experiences. Is that the actual in ceiling speakers was just a much better performance for me. All right, guys. Well, I told you this is going to be about a half hour, and look, maybe one time I didn't lie to you guys. We always go way over. But my very last mistake that I've made my whole life, that I've made even last night, last week, that I'll make this weekend, that I'll make next week, is not enjoying myself and always critiquing myself. You got to understand, you're always going to be your worst critic. Mark Fox, what is up, brother? Thanks for jumping in on the chat. Thanks for checking us out. He's been a supporter since day one. Also a very good Patreon member of ours. We certainly appreciate that extra support, Mark. So we got some more. I've been dropping some videos on there for you, man. I got a bunch more coming. So, but it's just not, I make a mistake that I go down in my room, I'm like, hey, I'm going to watch this movie. And I get down there, make sure everything's set up right. I'm like, oh, let me check this, or something don't sound right. Let me bust out the computer, run root. Let me, man, let's listen to a little music first. Oh, something with the subs don't sound right. And then, you just realize like nothing has changed. Everything still sounds exactly as it did. Everything still sounds great. But then you end up literally messing with, your level of perfection for like an hour. And then by the time you're done with all that, you're like, oh, I don't even want to watch the movie anymore. Now, I understand not everybody's like that. I got a few friends that are like that, or maybe even worse than me. I literally find my free time that should be my movie time or my music listening time, that I just find myself like looking for something wrong. Like, oh, this should sound better. Or like, oh, let's move the surround speakers another inch away from each other. Or let's tilt them in at a different angle. Or, oh, maybe, they need my side surrounds need to be moved up just a little bit more. Well, now that I moved everything a few inches this or that way, let's rerun ARC, but disable this part of ARC because I don't like the way that it handles this. Or, let's throw another foot or two, on subwoofer 8 or subwoofer 6, or let's adjust, some filters. And I'm like literally like pulling my hair out, and then I just frustrate the shit out of myself. It sounded amazing when I started. It sounded amazing when I was done. I don't know if I made things 1% better or 1% worse, but then I end up just shutting everything off and then going upstairs that I never watched the movie that I planned on watching. And for some reason, for the life of me, I'm always doing that in the theater, and I cannot figure out why. In the 2-channel RTJ setup, I literally just turn it on. We turn some music on. I listen to that all day and night. I feel that it's set up perfect, and I never mess with anything in that room. I did when I first got them, just because I didn't know, how I wanted the soundstage to be set up. But literally after like the first couple of weeks of owning them, they've sat in the same spot for a long time. But I always find myself in the theater. I don't know if you guys do that or not, or if it's, I know I got a few buddies, like I said, but literally I'm critiquing myself a lot, and I'm very jealous and very envious of the people that are like, oh, my right speaker ain't even working. I think I got a bad wire, but let's have a movie marathon and I'll check it in a week or two. I mean, I would be the guy moving everything out of my room, run a new wire. Well, that's a different kind of wire than I ran on all the other speaker. So now I got to run all new wires on all the speakers because I want to make sure they're all the same length, the same brand. Not that it's an expensive brand, but just so everything's exactly the same. And I drive myself absolutely fucking crazy. And I'm even giving myself anxiety right now thinking about it. I'm sitting next to the theater because in our arcade podcast room here now. And another thing that's an issue with me is no matter anytime I do it, my theater is always ready to go. The floor is completely vacuumed. Everything's wiped down. I have so many unexpected guests come by that literally call, hey, I'm in town. We talked 3 months ago. You said I could stop by. I'm like, shit, I forgot all about it. So the theater's always ready to go. But I always feel like something could just use a little bit of tweaking. So that drives me crazy. So I'm just going to check through the comments real quick. Appreciate you guys hanging out with us. This Friday night, Stephen Dew's on for a full episode. None of this half episode shit. For 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. Edward, I have done the same thing, but what I have noticed is some movies sound way better than others. It's just the way they're recorded. There's nothing wrong with our systems. Yeah, I don't know what it is, man. They want you to set your system up, for reference, and then certain stuff comes out, and I don't know where that reference lies. I mean, what movie are we setting up for, man? It's and then it even gets worse when you get into like the Blu-ray concerts, or you even get into music, even streaming like Tidal or Cubos and stuff like that. Like there's no it's unbelievable as I can't find a perfect setting, because every single thing that we're listening to or we're watching, I don't stream a lot in the theater, but if we are renting a movie, I'll do it like off Apple TV. Like if it's going to be like a comedy or a romance or something I don't want to buy on a hard disc. So it's like literally, I don't know, man. But it drives me fucking nuts. It does. So YouTube's probably going to kick my video down because I said fuck a few times. Whatever. I don't care. But that's how I really feel. I wouldn't lie to you guys. All right, cool, guys. So that is my top 9. So if you guys have something to share, there's plenty of ways to reach out to us. Like I said, you can listen to this on Spotify. You can shoot us an email at, we get emails from people all the time, which is awesome for upcoming guests, upcoming questions. If there's somebody that you want to see on this channel, all I can do is reach out to them. I've had good luck, man, reaching out to people, like Mark Seaton and Brandon Hill and Matthew Pose, Don Dunn. We've had a lot of great luck reaching out to people. I have reached out to a few people that never even responded. It is what it is. But you can reach us at livingitwithscottandcat@gmail.com. We certainly appreciate it, just for your guys' thoughts. If you're not part of our Facebook group, you can join in there. We're always dropping some info of what's going on with upcoming episodes and stuff, or what Kat and I have going on. Living It Podcast with Scott and Cat Facebook group. Man, yeah, cool. Certainly got a ton of stuff coming out for the Patreon members. Of course, you guys are absolutely rock. All our subscribers, we're working on new material for our YouTube channel all the time, seeing what we could do. Some of this stuff works, some of it don't, but that's part of running a new YouTube channel. So once again, I appreciate you guys taking, Mondays kind of suck sometimes. It is what it is, but at least we all got to hang out here for about a half hour. So appreciate it. You guys have an awesome night. And to our intros and outros, Coley Gray, I'm sorry. I'm acoustics, Coily, man. I'm messing up left and right here. So maybe half of the viewers are getting a good laugh out of it. That's okay, because I'm going to start a comedy show on the same channel. Who knows? But peace out, guys. I am out. See you guys Friday night, 9 p.m. Central Standard Time with Stephen Do. See you guys later. Crank it up, rock out, have a good time.